You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's November the 27th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, your Psychedelics and Cannabis news source. Good day, Cindy.
Good morning, Al. How are you? What's that?
What's new and exciting?
What's new and exciting? I don't know.
That's a long list.
It is. It is. I sadly had a fall last week, so my brain hasn't been focused on a lot of stuff. So
Yeah. As far as myself, I'm doing okay. Getting a little colder out, though.
yeah, you get some snow coming tonight, don't you?
Yes, and much more of it in the forecast. And yourself? Any snow?
We have a little bit of snow coming, possibly tomorrow night into Saturday morning, but our big snow is predicted for Tuesday. So that's our big first snowfall. It's cold here today, though.
Yeah. Today we've got 8 stories as we normally do, and we're going to be talking about psychedelics, cannabis. We're going to be talking money, and we're going to be talking about poo. That's what it's listed as, poo. I was going to say shit, but it's listed as poo. Yes, we got an article talking about some shitty weed. So we'll find out what that is like during this broadcast.
Just
All
for
right.
some.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, here we go. First story of the day.
Yeah, a local story coming to us from CBC. BC Drug Compassion Club reduced overdose risk, and lawyer argues in constitutional challenge.
Right, that's right. A lawyer for the founders of a Vancouver initiative that provided tested heroin, cocaine, and meth to drug users during the toxic drug crisis says the risk from the street supply is grossly disproportionate to any benefit of shutting down the club. Tim Dixon told a BC Supreme Court judge in his opening statement on a constitutional challenge of the conviction of the 2 founders that shutting down the Compassion Club, launched by the Drug User Liberation Front, violates a drug user's charter, including the right to life and security of the person.
The challenge comes after Jeremy Calcium and Iris Nix were found guilty this month on charges of possession of the drugs for the purposes of trafficking, although the conviction has been suspended until the constitutional argument is decided. Dixon told the court the charges were completely out of sync with the public health goals of Canada's drug laws and that the club was effective in reducing overdoses and deaths.
Dozens of supporters watched from the courtroom gallery on the first day of the trial, which was on Monday, which is expected to last 3 weeks and include testimony from both Dolph founders and multiple experts. Dolph operated the Compassion Club between August of 2022 and October of 2023 and was given annual funding of $200,000 from the Vancouver Coastal Health Authority for its drug checking and overdose prevention services.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
In 2021, the club approached Health Canada asking for permission to buy heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine on the dark web before having the drugs tested for contaminants and selling them to users through its Compassion Club and Fulfillment Center. Health Canada rejected the application for exemption from drug laws, saying Dolph's plan presented too many public health and safety risks. The group, however, went ahead with it anyway, saying it would save lives.
Dixon said he will show that an exemption was not practically available to the club because of the series of bureaucratic and legislative barriers. The unsanctioned operation triggered political criticism, particularly after it emerged that it had initially received public funding.
Yeah, the operation was shut down in October of 2023 when police conducted a raid and arrested Calcium and Nix. Justice Catherine Murray said in her decision on the founders' charges on November 7th that the issue at trial was whether drug law exemptions granted to Dolph allowed them to possess the drugs with the intent to sell them.
Murray acknowledged that Dolph was founded in response to the toxic drug crisis, with the goal of distributing safe drugs and curbing overdose deaths. The decision says that the exemption authorized Calcium and Nix to test the drugs, package, and label them, and provide supervised consumption of these substances, but did not extend to selling the tested drugs to members.
The latest statistics from BC's Coroner Service shows 158 people in BC died from illicit drug overdoses in September. In September. 1 month. And it's equivalent, which is equivalent to about 5.3 deaths per day, deaths that could be avoided.
Yeah, and that's these guys were doing, helping to reduce deaths.
Yeah. It's scary out in BC, or anywhere actually in the world with tainted drugs. I mean, and I get that these are street drugs; they are illicit drugs. Mm-hmm. But without the fentanyl, there would be a fraction of overdoses, and most of those would be able to be stopped very easily and not necessarily kill the people. Yeah. What these people were doing was trying to save lives, not hurt people. They are a step in that is most definitely needed towards getting sober, to get people off of things like fentanyl and carfentanil, things that are killing them, things that are disgustingly addictive, and get them onto a clean supply. It's easier to get them sober from that clean supply and then be able to help them heal while they're there in the first place. So this is a really, in my opinion, a very important step that these people were offering, and I'm really, really, really sad that they've been stopped.
Yeah, and it takes somebody like these guys to challenge these laws, and in the end, help save lives. Like I'm sure during the trial they're going to be able to maybe pinpoint to some numbers in order to show that they are
maybe even invite some people up that have used their services, and it's helped them.
No, there seems to be the problem there towards the end. They're talking about the fact that they were selling them to members. I wonder if there was some way that they could get around that, where they could still cover their costs like a nonprofit type situation.
Yep. Yeah, there's got to be a donation way to do it that will keep them in operation or put them back in operation without putting them in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So let's hope they can.
Come on, Dana Larson, you're smart.
Yeah. And he's been involved in that for years, helping out with drug testing, right? So yeah. All right, time to move on to the next story. Here we go.
Yeah, coming to us from MJ Biz Daily. Why legal cannabis's best hope is the Supreme Court in the United States.
Will the Supreme Court do what Congress and the White House have not, and deliver the $32 billion U.S. cannabis industry from the outdated federal cannabis laws? An answer is inching closer after the highest court on Monday scheduled a meeting for the next month to determine whether it will hear a constitutional challenge to federal cannabis prohibition.
Look, it's the United States Owen Smith stepping forward. Yeah. If the court hears the case and if the justices rule in the industry's favor, cannabis operators could enjoy profound benefits, well beyond what's promised if President Donald Trump makes good on his promise to consider cannabis rescheduling. Part of the reason why we brought the case in the first place was people in the industry have been told that for the better part of a decade, relief is coming, and it hasn't come, despite the fact that 38 states have authorized lawful sales. And this is coming from attorney Josh Schiller of Boies Schiller, who is arguing the case. I wish you all the best of luck, Mr. Schiller.
That's right. He added that why is the federal government so far behind more than 2/3 of the country? We don't know. We can't explain it. It is just apparently such a low priority. And this case was a way to shake the box a little bit.
Absolutely. We needed that here too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we sure did. The court will meet behind closed doors on December 12th. Oh, that's going to be a great day. According to the docket for Canada Provisions et al. Versus Bondi, the lawsuit brought by 4 cannabis companies that seeks to bring federal cannabis policy before the nation's highest court for the first time in 20 years. Look, I'm getting chills just reading this. The court is likely to consider taking up the case in January, Schiller said.
Chicago-based multi-state operator Verano Holdings and the 3 Massachusetts-based plaintiffs sued the U.S. Department of Justice in October of 2023, claiming that the federal restrictions on cannabis in the Controlled Substances Act are no longer constitutional. In addition to Verano, the applicants are Canada Provisions, a Massachusetts cannabis retailer, Gayassi Sellers, the CEO of the Trivet delivery service, and Wiseacres Farm, a cultivator.
The last time federal cannabis laws came before the court was 2005 in Gonzalez versus Reich. I remember that one. That was before a single state allowed adult use cannabis sales. Since then, the legal landscape as well as public opinion have changed dramatically.
And conservative justices, chief among them Clarence Thomas, has questioned prohibition's validity. He says that we do not believe that there's been a desire to find the right case to effectively overturn Gonzalez versus Wright, Scheller says.
The crux of the argument is that conditions have changed so much since the High Court's 2005 ruling. More than 24 states have legalized adult use cannabis, and the factual basis for that ruling no longer exists. The case also references comments made in a separate case in 2021 by Thomas, who suggested federal cannabis law might not be necessary or proper.
During oral arguments last December, attorney David Boyce, a prominent litigator who has argued other major cases before the highest court, contended that congressional action since the 2005 ruling, including a budget rider protecting medical cannabis businesses from federal prosecution, means that the federal lawmakers no longer intend to ban interstate cannabis commerce. So far, the argument has failed. First in the U.S. District Court last year, and in May at the first U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals.
In their appeal, the companies argue the U.S. Constitution affords them a right to cultivate and transact in cannabis that is deeply rooted in the nation's history and its legal traditions. And it also says the Controlled Substances Act violates the Fifth Amendment's right to due process. If the Supreme Court hears the case and it's successful, cannabis companies could expect relief from the Internal Revenue Code Section 280E, and easier access to banking services. Hallelujah. Institutional investment and mainstream exchanges.
Cannabis companies, including major cannabis multi-state operators, already claiming refunds from the Internal Revenue Services on the basis of 280E doesn't apply. It may also have an easier time in tax court, Schiller's added. Plus, he says that there would be people in place to claim refunds that would be substantial.
Essential to the case is the argument that federal cannabis prohibition is unconstitutional because it interferes with the state's ability to regulate trade within their own borders. Because of that, and because states already regulate adult use cannabis and do not allow for out-of-state product, interstate commerce is unlikely to be legalized as a result of a court case, Schiller added.
The case is also unlikely to affect the federal ban on hemp THC that's scheduled to go into effect in November 2026. The redefinition of hemp, which includes products like Delta-8 THC and THCA flower from federal protection, passed via the spending bill that ended the record government shutdown and was signed into law by President Trump on November the 12th, giving Congress the power to regulate trade.
And many states have already banned or strictly regulated hemp THC. However, the legitimization of cannabis via the court could lure even more major corporations to enter cannabis, along with some of the consumer packaged goods, the CPG giants from alcohol and tobacco, already flirting with the sector.
I don't think McDonald's will start selling Happy Meals that make you really happy, Jallard says. I was going to say Hempy Meals. Right? And he goes on and says, but they might. The stigma may be completely gone at that point.
Yeah.
So there you go. Two back-to-back stories dealing with, maybe court challenges that are going to end prohibition on, psychedelic stuff here in Canada, somewhat, as well as maybe federal legalization of cannabis.
It would be beautiful for the United States, because that affects us as well with the banking. I mean, it would make things so much easier for everybody, and not just here in Canada, but around the world. Like, I mean, no matter how much Trump is pissing everybody off, they are still the financial powerhouse. A lot of money goes to the United States from all around the world. And it would be really nice to see them come on board, not just to help that, but to help their people, fight ailments and kill pain.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So how much money has Canada been getting from cannabis legalization? Let's find out.
Let's find out. Coming to us from StratCan, Canada has collected more than, get this, $5.4 billion in federal cannabis taxes, with $4.2 billion supposedly going to the provinces.
A new report shared in the House of Commons shows that the federal and provincial governments in Canada have brought in more than $5.4 billion in cannabis tax revenue since October 2018. The federal government has collected $1.2 billion of that revenue, while the majority, $4.2 billion, has gone to the provinces and territories. The figures are updated through August 31st, 2025.
The information was tabled in the House of Commons in response to a question from Conservative MP Luke Berthold, who asked on October 7th, 2025. The answer was tabled on November 24th of 2025. The Canada Revenue Agency collects both federal and provincial cannabis excise duty revenues in accordance with the coordinated cannabis taxation agreements signed with each province and territory. The provinces and territories receive 75% of every dollar of excise revenue collected for cannabis wholesale into their provincial or territorial system.
Unsurprisingly, Ontario, Canada's most populous province, with about 16.3 million people, brought in the most significant provincial share of revenue with $1.5 billion. Alberta, with a population of about 5 million, brought in about $1.1 billion. Quebec, with a population of about 9 million, brought in about $501 million in cannabis tax revenue. BC, they've got 5.7 million people. They came in fourth, bringing $478 million in tax revenue. And all provinces and territories, except Manitoba, are participating in the federal administered cannabis taxation framework.
Except Manitoba. Interesting. The Canada Revenue Agency's annual financial statements for administrative activities, which include cannabis excise duty revenue for 24-25, have not yet been published, but are expected to be published following the tabling of public accounts in Parliament later this calendar year. Cannabis excise duty revenues for 2025-26 represent interim revenues from April 1st of 25 to August 31st of 25. In addition, Health Canada has spent nearly $21.6 million to support educational or advertising campaigns. These campaigns cover prevention messages as well as others such as lowering your risks, mental health, choosing legal and preventing of cannabis poisonings in children. I think it's lowering youth risks is what it's meant to read.
Yeah. The majority of this, which is $13.2 million, was spent from 2018 to 2019 on two major campaigns. The Your Cannabis Questions Answered national advertising campaign, which integrated topics with Health Canada, Justice, Public Safety, Global Affairs Canada, and the Canadian Border Services Agency, and the Pursue Your Passions experimental marketing live tour. And since 2018, 26 projects focused on cannabis prevention and public education have received a total of $29,597,569 in contributions.
Right down to the penny.
There you go. Money, lots of money, big numbers.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. All right, one more story to go before we get to break. I've got it all lined up and ready to go.
Here we go. Coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine, Conor McGregor is the latest fighter using psychedelics for healing.
Here we go, another one. Mixed martial arts star and whiskey entrepreneur Conor McGregor claims to have encountered Jesus Christ during an ibogaine therapy session. The Irishman is the latest fighter who has chosen to experiment with psychedelics for healing purposes. In a post on the X platform on Sunday, he described having a Christian religious experience while undergoing treatment with the psychoactive compound at a clinic in Mexico run by Ambio Life Sciences. The experience was transformative for him, based on his account.
He said, I was blessed to meet the most forward-thinking doctors from Stanford University and undergo a series of treatments to address trauma. It was incredible, intense, and absolutely eye-opening. He says God came to him in the Holy Trinity and he was shown the light. It was the most enlightening and enchanting experience of his life, according to his social media post.
The Dublin-born boxer and MMA fighter is not the first to select this variety of therapy to help maim trauma accumulated in and out of the octagon. Retired professional mixed martial arts fighter Ian McCall was also recently in Mexico to undergo ibogaine therapy at a facility run by Beyond. Additionally, former UFC contenders Kate Fletcher and Keith Jardine are known to have traveled to Mexico to experience ibogaine. They sought the alternative therapy for brain injury recovery. Both reported significant improvements in cognitive function and well-being as a result. Fletcher described it as a miraculous and said it saved him from suicidal ideation.
I'm so happy for him. That is so beautiful. Ibogaine is such a beautiful substance. Ibogaine is a powerful psychedelic derived from the iboga shrub native to Gabon, Central Africa. It should only be taken under the supervision of medical professionals. I can attest to that. Many veterans and first responders have also been using the compound to treat PTSD. Moreover, or PTSI, as I like to say. Moreover, it has become a popular treatment for substance use disorders. Absolutely. The clinic McGregor received the treatment at, run by Ambio, was the site of a highly significant study completed by Stanford University last year. During the post-treatment assessment at Stanford Medicine, veteran participants reported an average reduction of 88% in their post-traumatic stress injury symptoms, 87% in depression symptoms, and 81% in anxiety.
In another unrelated yet still related development, McGregor announced this week that he is collaborating with fellow ibogaine advocate Rob O'Neill on an upcoming series. Mike Tyson, Israel Adesanya, Deontay Wilder, Jack Paul, and Dean Lister or other combat sports athletes who have taken psilocybin and ayahuasca to remedy the negative impact fighting has had on their brain.
Wow.
I can just imagine just getting beat all the time, right? Punched in the head.
Yeah, it's going to do stuff to the brain. It's going to break some of the things that are going on in there. And psilocybin is known for, helping synapses reconnect and helping those things fix themselves. And it's really amazing to see that some of the quote unquote famous people are out there trying these therapies and being loud about it, getting up on their pulpits and saying, this is what worked for me.
As we've always said, patient stories educate others.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. It's break time. For us to medicate off screen, go to the bathroom or get a drink, whatever you need to do. So, all right. You're watching Psychedelics Cannabis Education and News. We're live here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network, here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back. We're live. And we got 4 more stories to bring you, including that story I talked about at the beginning about the shitty.
Yeah, we're going to start the weekend on a comical note.
That's right. Exactly. But first, before we get to that story, we're going to do something virtual. Here we go. What's up?
Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Listen, I got pop-ups coming to us from, where am I? TELUS Digital, empowering patient-centric care. Am I on the? I don't think I'm on the right page, Al.
No, you're not. You're not.
No, I'm not.
No, medicalexpress.com, which virtual clinical trial suggests psychedelics.
I got it. For some reason, it took me to a pop-up.
There you go. Yeah, it says the virtual clinical trial suggests psychedelics may boost brain activity in coma patients.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. We're going backwards on this one. Researchers from the University of Liège and international collaborators developed a virtual clinical trial exploring a unique pharmacological treatment in patients who do not fully regain consciousness after coma. The proposed treatment involves employing psychedelic medicines such as psilocybin and LSD that have intense consciousness-altering effects in healthy volunteers. Those remarkable experiences are thought to be linked with increased dynamical complexity of the brain. In patients with disorders of consciousness, DOC, dynamic brain function is importantly reduced, potentially resulting in decreased consciousness. Therefore, the proposed treatment effects hinge upon the premise that a short-term increase in the complexity of brain activity in patients could result in improvements in the conscious state of these patients. That's a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo, but really, really cool.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Performing clinical trials with psychedelic medicines is burdened with legal obstacles and necessitates careful planning and ethical considerations. However, in this study by Naj Alanagar and team published in Advanced Science, the authors innovatively utilized personalized computational models of patients' brains built from individual MRI scans. Now, after constructing a computational model of each patient's brain, they simulated the effects of LSD and psilocybin as would be performed in a clinical trial, yet virtually. The researchers demonstrated these substances could shift brain activity in patients with DOC towards healthier, more flexible, and complex dynamics.
Pop-ups. To study the dynamics of simulated brain activity, the authors observed how an artificial perturbation was integrated into the brain's activity in time and magnitude. In order to understand any dynamical system, in this case the brain, it's often useful to perturb it, said Al-Nagager, I'm not sure, who is the first author. He's a PhD candidate of the Coma Science Group.
It says, imagine if you want to understand how vicious a liquid is, in other words, its dynamics, you could poke it by observing how it reacts to the perturbation, how long it takes to return to baseline, and the degree it is disturbed could reveal a lot of information as to the viscosity. The same is true here. Observing how the model reacts after introducing an artificial perturbation can tell us about the nature of the dynamics of the brain activity. Researchers first validated this method of stimulated perturbations by showing that the response to them was lower in states of lower consciousness, such as DOC patients and healthy participants under anesthesia compared to normal waking consciousness. They then showed that under psychedelics, perturbation induces an even greater response than in healthy individuals without the medicine.
Interesting. The researchers found that stimulating LSD and psilocybin on patients with DOC boosted their responses to these perturbations. The effect was greater in patients with some minimal signs of non-reflex behavior, minimally conscious state, compared to patients with no detectable signs of clinical awareness, unresponsive wakefulness syndrome. Stratifying these two diagnostic groups, the researchers also found that the simulated treatment effect was more correlated with the strength of the brain's structurally connectivity in the UWS patients, UWS unresponsive. So that's the no detectable signs of full coma. And with the strength of the brain functional connectivity in the MCS, which have some minimal responses.
Exactly. Now, Dr. Jetka Annan, who's the senior author and researcher at the University of Ghent, says that what was particularly noteworthy was that the MCS and UWS patients have the same level of structural connectivity strength. What differed was the efficacy of the existing connectivity. Therefore, it seems that not only connectivity strength, but efficient organization was critical in sustaining the psychedelic-related shifts in dynamics. The results of the study suggest that if this treatment was to be carried out in real clinical settings, the type of patients who would most likely benefit would be an MCS patient with a strongly connected functional connectivity. This provides a starting point to target potential future clinical trials, says Dr. Olivia Gozers, who's the director at Coma Science Group.
Interesting. Computational models offer a way to test treatments in silico, identify good potential candidates, and investigate the mechanisms of a particular treatment. This is important proof of concept, said Allinger. While much more work is needed before any form of clinical application, this study shows how personalized computational modeling could one day form a valuable part of preclinical work and personalized medicine.
Yep, the study was performed in collaboration with the University Hospital of Ling, Imperial College London, Maastricht University, Sorbonne University, and another one as well, and international partners. So there you go. It's good to see. Studies.
Yeah. Yeah, which I mean, like it's really interesting. They're talking about putting psilocybin and LSD into patients that are in a coma-like state.
Yeah.
So whether they're in full coma or they have some response, and what they're trying to see, because science has told us that both of these medicines, both of these things help to rebuild the brain and help to fix the brain. So a coma patient who is that far under has, like, it was one of the things that they're doing is they're fixing their brain when they're in a coma. And it's really cool. I didn't even think of the idea until like reading this. And it's just really neat that, you know, these substances can help these people and, you know, maybe help them fully come back and gain.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Holy crapola. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Psychedelics for the win.
Yeah. Every day we learn something new. That's why it's got educational in our name.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. That was a lot of, you know, they could have said it a little bit more layman terms-ish, but that was really cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Sometimes we get some tongue twister words. There's no doubt about that. So,
yeah.
All right. Time for us to move on to the next story, and good news for Quebec.
Yeah, coming to us from StratCan, cannabis producers launch an array of unique vapes for the Quebec market.
The Quebec government's decision to finally allow the sale of legal regulated cannabis vapes will help the province fight back against the illicit market, says one BC-based cannabis company. Recent consumer data commissioned by Village Farms Canadian Cannabis shows that more than half of cannabis consumers in Quebec are interested in purchasing vape products from legal regulated channels.
Mm-hmm. The survey, offered in French and English in early 2025, collected responses from more than 1,000 people, including 500 current cannabis consumers. Overall, 7% of respondents and 32% of those who identify as cannabis consumers currently use cannabis vaping products, preferring this format for its minimal odor, convenience, and ease of use. Among all cannabis consumers, 55% indicate that they would be interested in purchasing the cannabis vaping products, including in the new offering through a legal and regulated channel. Among respondents interested in regulated cannabis vaping products, 50% cite confidence in the safety testing and quality of the products as the primary motivations for purchasing.
To help meet those demands, Village Farm International, together with its Quebec-based subsidiary Rose Life Science, Inc., is launching its Promenade brand's first vape in Quebec. The Promenade Matin vape has been crafted exclusively for the Quebec market with a blend of cannabinoids, including THC and CBG. Village Farms is also the parent company of Pure Sun Farms, which offers an array of vape products in the Canadian market.
One unique facet of Quebec's cannabis regulations is a 30% THC cap on all cannabis products, including concentrates and vape pens. Because most vape pens on the market tend to have 70 to 90% THC, this has required cannabis companies looking to sell their vapes through the Société Québécoise du Cannabis, the SQDC, to come up with unique formulations. One such company, what's that?
They capped it. They capped it at 30%.
Yeah, which is crazy. Wow. I can understand that for flour, but when you start pulling the concentrates, to me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What else are you going to put in there if you're only going to allow it to be 30%? Like, what other crap are you going to make me smoke, right? In vape-wise, right? So one such company, Quebec-based cannabis and hemp grower, Group Chanav, has created a live resin vape specially for the Quebec market. While they have flour and hash available in other provincial markets under the brand Bleu, along with a range of CBD products, their new full-spectrum extract resin cart is the first of its kind for the company.
Yeah, Bleu has developed two 100% pure balanced live resin carts that fit within the SQDC's 30% limit, utilizing inputs from their own THC and CBD farm. The company's founder, Danny Leverber, says this represents a project he has wanted to realize for over a decade. Blue has been building towards this moment for nearly a decade. We've developed two products, 100% pure, balanced live resin cartridges that fit within the SQDC's 30% limit. It wasn't a quick project. It took discipline, patience, and years of perfecting cold chain handling, from harvesting at -2 degrees to frozen storage, to hydrocarbon extraction, to formulation, to ceramic carts filling.
These limitations, he said, forced the company to find unique solutions that he's excited to begin sharing with other markets in Canada soon as well. I'd be interested in trying just to see the difference. For years, Canadian vape innovation has been driven by THC potency and flavors. Quebec's framework forced us to rethink that entirely. It pushed us towards something more honest, a vape that reflects the plant and the consumer, not the lab bench.
Yeah. Most vape products in Canada are made from distillate with added botanical terpenes, he added. What we're offering is something completely different. This is cold chain, pure live resin, no botanical flavors, no reconstruction, no shortcuts, just the plant's full spectrum chemistry, preserved live and balanced. A balanced experience has its place. After all, 94% alcohol is legal at the liquor store, but you don't see many people buying it.
No.
Yeah. Now, the SQDC first announced its plans to allow the sale of cannabis vapes in November of 2024. This decision was made with the goal of providing a lower risk alternative to Quebec customers compared to unregulated vape products.
Additionally, the SQDC says that all its in-store advisors and online chat agents have received training developed in collaboration with the Quebec Ministry of Health and Social Services to help them guide consumers towards responsible consumption. The training includes information on the specific characteristics of different extracts, the safe use of vaping devices, awareness of addiction, and the dangers of products available on the illegal market.
In addition to the 30% THC limit, no additional flavors can be added to these products except for cannabis-based derived terpenes that are already in the product. More than 24 vape products are expected to be available through the SQDC beginning November the 26th, so yesterday, people, with 2 vaping devices and 25 different cartridges in its brick-and-mortar locations, as well as an additional 5 through its online portal at the sqdc.ca website.
Very cool. Other producers with products in that initial launch include Canana Biotech, which previously announced it had received preliminary approval from 5 cannabis vape SKUs in Quebec, and Tilray, which announced 2 1-gram 510 thread cartridges. Mercanto Holdings Incorporated announced on July 7th that it had received preliminary acceptance for 3 different SKUs. Quebec was the final province not to allow such products to be sold. PEI recently lifted its own moratorium, with sales launching on November 21st this year. Newfoundland and Labrador also previously banned the sale of cannabis vapes, but began allowing them in 2022.
There you go. Another part of prohibition comes to an end in Quebec. It's just too bad that they continue the prohibition of cannabis growing by their citizens.
Yeah, well, that will change too.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
It takes time.
It takes time. It'll have to be a change of government because the Supreme Court has already agreed to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, and sometimes that's what it takes, right? Like, you know, we watched Manitoba go through it. They can now grow. Somebody will eventually stand up, and they'll get caught. They'll get in trouble. There will be another constitutional challenge, and it will go. But you know, like, by then they'll have watched the rest of Canada and what's going on, how, you know, Manitoba has handled it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I still feel that, you know, we'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, exactly. The product description that the fellow was talking about sounds really good. It was just the 30% end of things. Now, I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
don't recall it saying it was available anywhere else other than Quebec,
but 30%, I've started catching on. 30% is the THC equivalent.
though. Right.
So if they're
Yeah.
taking a flower, and the flower is 28% THC, and then you've got this compound and that, cannabinoid, and that cannabinoid, and that cannabinoid, they can take that whole flower, make a live resin, and create the cart. The cart is still below 30% THC, which is what they're watching. It's not a total cannabinoid percentage; it's a
No, it's just
THC
THC. Yeah, it's just
percentage.
the THC.
And what caught my eye about that, and what's got me really interested, and I would love to get my hands on some, is that they are creating them strictly from live resin. They're not throwing
Yeah,
in any other flavonoids or any other crap, which is what I was worried about. Which
that's
is
tradition.
just, yeah, it's really cool. Like my
Yeah.
favorite carts have been pure live resin. I mean, they're on the illegal market, but and it's really hard to find them these days. But and I haven't seen them in Nova Scotia in a long time. But
Yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
like that live resin.
1964.
So you taste like you're smoking a joint, like you
Right.
taste the cannabis.
1964 has got live resin vapes and
Well, that's what I use.
no added terpenes.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what I
pretty
look.
amazing.
That's what I look for as well.
Yeah.
When it comes to the vapes. So, all right, from vapes to maybe better access to cannabis. Here we go.
Wouldn't that be nice? Coming to us from Marijuana Moment, New York governor signs bill expanding state medical cannabis program with new rules on home grow, possession limits, and more.
Let's hope those home grow rules are favorable. There we go. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has signed a bill into law updating the state's medical cannabis program, with revised rules that grant reciprocity to out-of-state residents, streamline the patient certification process, allow adults 18 and older to grow their own cannabis plants for therapeutic use, and more. All right. The legislation from Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes and Senator Jeremy Cooney, which advanced out of the legislature in June, was signed by the governor on Friday.
Under the newly enacted law, patient certifications will also be valid for 2 years rather than 1. The reform also removes the requirement that health professionals issuing medical cannabis recommendations must first consult the state prescription monitoring program. This legislation reflects New York's ongoing commitment to compassion, science, access, and equity. This is coming from Felicia Reed, who is the acting executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management of the OCM.
Yep. The bill also gives patients more flexibility with respect to possession limits, clarifying that patients and caregivers can have whichever is a larger amount, the designated maximum under state statute or a 60-day supply. Patients deserve a medical cannabis program that truly supports their care, and these updates move us closer to that goal, says June Chin, Chief Medical Officer of the OCMB. He said, by expanding access and modernizing the system, we are ensuring that treatment decisions are guided by evidence, clinical expertise, and the lived experience of the people we serve.
The main changes to the medical cannabis law took effect 90 days after the enactment. A justification section of the measure says the success of the medical cannabis program is critical for patients across New York, and it is appropriate, again, to update, modernize, and improve the program.
The changes sought by this legislation are necessary for an efficient and modernized program that will greatly benefit patients across the state, it says. Now, Naksha Abel, Deputy Director of Scientific Programs and Research at OCM, said that the goal of this legislation is to ensure that we're easing access barriers to medical cannabis across the state. Good stuff.
Yeah. She continues to say, by grounding policy in data and patient experience, we've built a stronger, more accessible program for all New Yorkers. Meanwhile, New York regulators recently celebrated the opening of the state's 500th legal cannabis dispensary, touting the fact that there have been 2.3 billion in adult use sales since the market launched not very long ago, supporting an estimated 25,000 jobs across the industry.
Meanwhile, given confusion within the marketplace about the timelines for provisional licenses, the state Cannabis Board of Control said it will be extending the renewal deadline for conditional and adult use until December 31st, 2026. They say this extension provides licensees additional time to secure viable locations and move towards full licensure. It will also apply to any provisional licenses issued between September 9th, 2025 and December 30th, ensuring clarity and consistency for all provisional license holders.
Part of the uncertainty surrounding provisional licenses concerns a recently identified zoning issue impacting more than 100 cannabis businesses that are apparently located too close to public schools or places of worship than is allowed under current statute. Governor Kathy Hochul has said that she will be pushing the legislature to amend the state's cannabis law to address the issue. Also, both chambers of the New York legislature earlier this year passed legislation that would extend the deadline for some cannabis businesses to file their electronic tax returns, sending the proposal next to the governor's desk.
Yeah, and if signed into law, the measure would give cannabis manufacturers and distributors 30 extra days to submit their tax returns following the end of each quarterly tax period. Currently, the companies have a 20-day window to file the documents, with the legislation would extend to 50. But it looks like they've really changed things with the medical program to the better there in New York by allowing patients to grow, allowing the larger sum of storage, and as well as other things.
Yeah,
good way to go, New York. Way to go. Yeah, I shut that story down. So
I see.
All right, now on to that crappy story that we were talking about at the beginning of the show. And it's time to find out what that is all about. Here we go.
What is it all about? Yes. Coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine, Oregon scientists designate cheesy poo as cannabis aroma category.
Cheese, vomit, and poop are proper ways to describe the aromatic quantities of certain hemp and cannabis strains, according to a handful of researchers from the Oregon State University. When you go, this smells like shit, you might be right. They recently completed a study in partnership with a panel of sensory specialists that divided an assortment of cannabis cultivars into 4 major aroma families, namely fruity, berry candy, and cakey, citrus and chemical, earthy, musty, straw, black tea, skunky, nutty toasted bread and woody, and cheesy plus vomit fecal. There you go.
Wow. We now have a useful list of words to describe the aroma of cannabis, said author Adrienne Wilson Poe. These aromatic categories were delineated after the cohort of American bug sniffers created a lexicon comprised of 25 different aroma terms. They evaluated a total of 91 samples grown in the United States and Switzerland.
The authors stated that sample selection by cannabis and industry professionals ensured a diverse and market representative set. Thomas Shellhammer, a professor of fermentation science at OSU and one of the authors, says that the aroma of cannabis is arguably more important than the potency than many focused on. Also, a superior predictor of quality. The smell is right there with me, man. I agree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the whole terpenes, right? Like it's not just tasting them and smoking them; it's smelling them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all part of the medicine. Yeah. Using trained sensory panels and high-resolution chemical analysis, terpenes, and volatile sulfur compounds, we identified 4 major aromatic archetypes that transcend legal classifications of cannabis and hemp. He described. The group of sense experts documented their extensive findings in the peer-reviewed Public Library of Science, PLOS, one journal on October 21st. 59 of the samples had THC content below 0.3% in compliance with the Farm Bill, and the other 32 had a significantly higher concentration.
The latter, smaller group of samples were not evaluated at the university. They were carefully smelt at a local dispensary instead to ensure legal and state compliant handling as specified in the assessment. Public universities in the U.S. are not permitted to have cannabis on their campuses because they are recipients of federal funding and must adhere to federal regulations. This applies regardless of the fact that adult use is legal in the state. Now, articulating a distilled list of aroma deceptors expressed in common language, yet grounded in sensory science and systematics validation, has the potential to transform how consumers understand and connect with this plant and its products, stated contributor Jerry Blum.
In their conclusion, the researchers explained that the lexicon should be expanded to include more designated scents and that future assessment should utilize a larger sample size to achieve such an expansion. And then below, we have a little table here.
Let's take a look at a little bit of it. Descriptor, fruity, fruit cocktail. This is the description. Pear, peach, grape. Aroma standard would be canned fruit cocktail and heavy syrup.
Yeah. And they go through all of them: citrus, berry, tropical, earthy, etc., 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 right down to the bottom where they talk about vomit and poo.
Oh, they do. There we go. Yep. Vomit, fecal, vomit or feces.
And they're not going to say what it smells like. I'm not going to tell you where you can go smell it.
No, exactly. Yeah, there you go. So cannabis has got an aroma listed as poo and vomit. Anyway. So there you go. Anything else off the top of your head you want to mention before we say goodbye?
Yeah, well, if you're in Nova Scotia and you have nothing planned for Friday night, the Nova Scotia Psychedelic Society has something really cool going on. We have a speed psychedelic friendship thing going on. It is being held in Halifax. If you go to our Facebook page, the Nova Scotia Psychedelic Society, there is information under the events. I'm sorry I don't have it up. I just thought of it when Al asked me. Yeah, so if you're in or around Halifax, Nova Scotia, come on down and join us. There will be some tickets at the door, or you can purchase them through Eventbrite. Yeah, we'll have stickers, we'll have treats, we'll have new psychedelic friends you can meet. Yeah. And this is a sober event, by the way. We're asking you to not come all strung out on psychedelics.
It makes sense.
Don't come in on 10 hits of LSD, please.
No. And just to let everybody know, as many of you know, Cindy, you recently spoke for the psychedelics, the Nova Scotia Psychedelics Society. You have now sent me the recording of that, and we will be re-airing it here on the network with audio this time.
With audio, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, okay. Other than that, that's a report for today. Thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone, City Hydroponics.ca, and At-Eze.ca. And in closing, as I always say, we'd like to thank you for tuning in and watching the program. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.